shall overcome. Surely there's no more fitting song than this one at this time in our history. And it's a song that has accompanied the Black struggle for freedom and civil rights for decades. And this particular version was one that was dedicated to all the people who've lost someone to COVID-19 and those who were fighting against this pandemic to help us overcome that. And we chose this version, even though you weren't able to see the wonderful video that goes with it. We chose it because there are a lot of parallels between the COVID-19 pandemic and this struggle that we're seeing right now. Like the viral pandemic, the pandemic of injustice has restricted the freedoms of many, and it's made it hard to breathe for many. And it affects all of us even when we try to carry on with life as we've known it. And the final parallel is deep in my heart. I do believe that we shall overcome both. The very fact that you're here, that we're here together, deepens that belief. So friends, on behalf of American Church in Berlin, welcome. My name is Denise Banks-Grozdik, and as the curator and director of the talks, I have the honor of leading us through the first part of Walk the Talk this morning, this initiative for social justice. So over the next 25 minutes, we'll begin a journey together that will hopefully continue as you join us as often as you are able over the next weeks, and we will walk hand in hand, of course, physically distant, metaphorically speaking, hand in hand, learning about and exploring how we can stand together with our Black brothers and sisters, especially now in America, and overcome the struggles that we are facing of injustice there, here, and everywhere in the world. So today's talk is called Speaking of Race, a new language cultivating common ground for dialogue on issues of race. Before I dive into that lighthearted topic, let's take a moment to prepare our hearts and our minds to open ourselves to new ways of Christ-inspired, Christ-centered thinking, being, and acting. And if there's anyone here who is thinking, I'm not a Christian, don't worry about the label. Jesus wasn't a Christian either. Our purpose behind the entire Walk the Talk initiative is to put our faith into action, to be the hands and feet of Christ in the world as we love our neighbors of every kind, and to welcome all who want to join us on that walk. And I invite you to join me now, and you can close your eyes if you like. Take a deep breath, like you are just breathing in your favorite scent, and hold it, and slowly exhale. Again, repeat that. And this time as you inhale, breathe in possibility and hope. And as you exhale, allow yourself to release any resistance to learning and growing together. And continue to breathe easily, knowing that this is a safe space of love and respect for each one of you, for each of us. And set your intention for what you hope to experience and leave with today. As we take in one more breath, I say peace be with you. And as you bring your presence back to this room, slowly, thank you. I have a question. If you came here to hear an academic lecture from the world's most renowned expert about issues of race, language, and the definitive collective experience of Black people, please raise your hand. Good, I am relieved. You're in the right room. Because I don't profess to be an expert on these things. I will share today from my knowledge and experience working as a leadership coach, as a trainer, teaching skills on how to communicate and work better, and as a speaker who has to use a lot of words. And I also have several years of experience in being an actual Black person engaging in the world. And I've learned that language is immensely powerful. Language can build bridges, and language can build walls. And right now, as we struggle with the very personal, existential, and emotionally charged issues of race, lots of walls are being built, even when the intention is to come together. So what comes to mind when you hear language can build walls? What comes to mind? Pat.
The wall along the southern border of the U.S.
Wall.
It's all about language and fear.
Okay. Something else. What else? When you hear there's a wall, what comes up? A barrier. For a lot of us, when we hear that language can build walls, when we think of a wall, it's tear down the walls, which is good. And at the same time, it takes our attention off of the focus of the bridges we could be building. And what we want to look at is how we can build bridges so that even if there is a wall, there's a way over for anyone who wants to cross it. If you are a liar, I would like you to raise your hand right now. What? If you're a liar. Okay, more hands than expected. Something to think about. Another question. If you've ever said something that was not true, please raise your hand. Hands went up much faster the second time. And all hands went up. So, what do you think happened? People were hesitant the first time, and the hands went up the second time. What happened?
Well, the one thing is identifying you as a person, and the other is just describing one aspect of you.
So the talk will be continued by Anne-Marie. That's exactly it. One, the choice of word liar built a wall. A different choice of words, have you ever said something that was not true, built a bridge? I am hearing that feedback. And Anne-Marie just said it so accurately. Liar is a word, it is heavy with preconceived ideas, and there's still different interpretations around that word. It's focused on labeling and judging the person, and it sets off all of our defenses. It hurts, it makes us angry, it will even push us into denial, even if our behavior is indeed that of someone who has lied. And the second statement focuses more on the behavior, which we can change. Have you ever said something that wasn't true? We can look at our behavior and question if we might choose, desire, or be able to do something differently. And this is what happens all day long, every day, all over the world, on social media, in our workplaces, in our homes, with strangers, friends, family members, in discussions, particularly on issues of race, is what has us absolutely screaming through our keyboards in all caps. It has us cutting off friends and family because they won't listen, they can't listen, when they, or we, actually are facing a wall and we just have no idea how to overcome it. So when we're talking with people who might not share our views of issues of race, or maybe even they might be what we consider in right field, We can look at a few words that are wall builders. And what we're going to do is look at just a couple of words. There's so many words that we could look at. And the first word is racist. What happens when you call someone a racist? They get defensive. So calling someone a racist, someone who considers themselves to be a good or at least a not so bad person, has a similar effect to calling someone a liar. In your eyes, they may have made an insulting remark or done something offensive, so they are a racist. And to them, when they hear racist, they think, I never use the N-word. I don't burn crosses. I'm not a racist. Anybody know what I'm talking about? Racism. Raise your hand if you've ever heard someone say, stop talking about racism. It doesn't even exist anymore. There's affirmative action. There are black people in really important jobs. You see them all over the place. The U.S. even had a black president. There's no racism. White privilege. Raise your hand if you've ever seen someone get really upset because they're confronted with the term white privilege. They might say things like, nobody is giving me anything. I don't have any privilege. Things are tough for me too. Where's the privilege? If the words racist, racism, and white privilege are emotionally charged and putting up walls, how can we address these things in a way that might allow us to meet on a bridge and at least listen to each other? So an approach that I've found useful is changing perspective. Simply trying to look at the thing that we're trying to talk about and describe or name it in a way that's not so burdened with a preconceived idea and might be less emotionally charged. And a good tool to get a different perspective is to look at some synonyms as well as some antonyms for the word. Speak from a place that addresses the issue and behaviors that create the perception you are discussing. Look for a way to build a bridge around that. So, okay, you're gonna have to visualize. So we're gonna look at the first word that we talked about, racist, either as a noun or a verb. What are some synonyms for racist? Bigot. Xenophobe. Supremacist. Okay. And what about racist as an adverb? I'm sorry, as an adjective. As a verb? Prejudiced, biased, intolerant. What are some words that are the opposite or close to the opposite of racist? Inclusive. Accepting, understanding, non-biased, tolerant, open-minded. All of those things are on the other side of racist. So if you want to build a bridge with someone who you may, your first inclination is to say, you're a racist, how could you do that? And this is interactive. Because when you leave here today, what we want you to do is feel like you are equipped to have these discussions a little bit better. So, for example, if you've got a friend who you think this person is really a racist, let's talk about some of the steadfast beliefs that you've had for a long time. Can I challenge you on that? How can you be open-minded about that? Are you being open-minded about that? Questions are fantastic. Are you being open-minded? How are you being open-minded? Because it challenges, are you being open-minded? Yeah, of course. How? Where's the evidence? The other word, racism. What are our wall, racism is our other wall word. What are some of the synonyms for racism? Bias. Big. Tribal might be. Racialism, turning everything into something that is about the separation of races. Bigotry is racism. Again, some of the same words that we had before now as this institution. Every ism is a system of the word that is before it. Sexism is a system of dealing with things in terms of gender, the sex of the person, and creating entire systems around it. And so is racism. Racism is a system of race. And when we're talking about systems, isn't it much easier to look at that system and say, what role am I playing in this system? What role are you playing in this system? Opposites of racism. The antonyms. Love. Humanity. Okay. Yeah, bringing your love and concern to everyone. When you're speaking about this system of race, rather than saying, racism is everywhere. Let's look at the systems of race. How is that system playing out in courts? How is that system playing out in schools? How is that system playing out in your gated community? How is that system playing out when you go into restaurants and someone else gets served before you, and then the next table gets served before you, and the next table gets served before you? How is the system playing out, and what's your role in that? Am I making sense?
Yes.
Okay. This is good. This is a very comforting thought. White privilege. What are some synonyms? White privilege. Entitled. Entitlement. I see you in the back. Freedom. Okay. What else? We've got. Think about the word privilege. We've got advantage. We've got allowance. We've got benefit, concessions, entitlement, exemptions, freedom, immunities, license, opportunities. When you think of white privilege, rather than confronting that person, you might say, what advantages do you see? What exemptions do you incur because you are white and not black? What freedoms do you enjoy that someone else with a different skin color might have to work for or might be denied? Which brings us to the other side, the antonyms of white privilege. Go ahead, shout them out. The opposite of privilege is, I didn't hear you. Inequality. Again, Tom? Fairness, okay. The opposite of privilege, disadvantage, handicap, misfortune, refusal, restriction, disapproval, detriment. How is this, what you are experiencing, how does that work to the disadvantage of a black person? How does it hinder them? What refusal might that person experience because they do not have this white privilege, white advantage, white benefit, benefit of the doubt.
We're not seen. Not heard, not seen. Second place, always second place.
Yeah.
Or last place.
Those are some of the ways that might be playing out. So look at, if you're engaging in a conversation with someone who says, there's no white privilege, or I don't have any privilege because of that, just cut it out. Those are some of the ways you can approach that. Look at this thing. What is it that we're actually talking about? Any examples that you would like? Examples that you'd like to talk about when you say, Monique, and I'm gonna ask you to speak loudly. Band-Aids, okay? Exactly. Imagine that, skin color. And now they've actually come out with a new package of Band-Aids with lots of different skin colors. Now it's like foundation. Oh, this is, I'm actually wearing several right now. But this is what privilege means, to live in a world where you don't have to think about the things that are around you because everything is designed for you with you in mind. So if you can move someone to say, you see how that's working? That's a great example because it's not threatening. It's actually kind of funny. You open the box of Band-Aids and go, skin color, which one should I try on? They all look a bit light to me. So our time is very limited, so we can't go into deeper discussion today. However, I want you to leave here confident that what I've shared today actually works. And I want you to leave knowing how much power there is in really focusing on the bridges that we can build and the common ground that we can cultivate in our discussions so that race discussions can be more productive. So I want to share a situation that happened just a few days ago. I've been in this discourse for, it's over a year, and this guy has always got some pretty strong opinions, and this one was about white privilege. I don't get it. What is this? And this isn't true. Give me 5 examples. So my friend, we'll call him Ed, said, do you want to speak to this? And I shared with him an opinion of another friend, also a white guy, who was saying he didn't get it at first. And then he began to understand what it means, this history that you keep carrying forward that never quite gets resolved. And it's like, it's a bit like this huge backpack that you never get to put down and things just keep getting added to it. But you're still expected to keep up in the race. So I shared this with him and said I'd like to engage more in, at the moment I was preparing for today. And a day later, he sent me a private message, thank you. He sent me a private message and he said, what he said was, thank you for sharing that. I just feel like everyone's just shouting and not listening. And I feel frustrated. And here we go. Thank you for forwarding that to. My frustration is that both sides seem to be screaming. No one is bothering to fix or even attempt to fix the issue. And I'll try to use this information in a positive way. Now this guy has been hammering away. I mean, he's probably got calluses on his fingertips from all those caps and the things he's been putting out there in the world. And just by not having that knee-jerk application, yes, there is white privilege, but to say, have a look. This is how it's playing out. Do you recognize? Can you see how that might be a thing? And this was the response. And this is all that we can ask for right now. If each one of us can change one opinion, get someone to look at things from a different perspective, then we're going to start a real ripple. And if next next week you come back and you bring someone with you who's going to go on this walk with us. Before you know it, I think that we will be on our way to overcoming something that we've been overcoming for a long time. And with that, I would like to just have this call to action for you. With what you have heard today, and the idea that maybe there's a different way of engaging in these conversations, what action you want to be inspired to take Christ-centered action and walk the talk. And that's how it works. And with that, ready to go out and march peacefully?